One of the things revealed during the October 17 stream was the new Deduction star skins, which basically means a bunch of characters are getting A-tier costumes again. This time, the lucky winners are the lawyer, the acrobat, the barmaid, the knight, the dream witch, and the nightmare. For you guys who don't know yet, these Deduction star skins are all based on old movies. And when I say old, I mean really old. Some of these movies even existed long before our grandparents were born. Therefore, it's pretty safe to say the Deduction Star series is inspired by films from the early to mid-1900s, or back when color was a luxury and sound effects were just people hitting coconuts together. Why that era? Well, probably because of the magic word, copyright expiration. After about 95 years, artworks enters the public domain, meaning it's free real estate. Basically, anyone can use things in public domain without paying anyone, kind of like how we all borrow our friends' notes. Anyway, the Deduction Star series has been around since 2018, which means there are already a ton of skins under that name. The thing is, not everyone actually knows what these skins are based on. Heck, some of us didn't even notice half of them existed. So in today's video, we're gonna talk about these skin, from the very first one all the way to the newest batch that just got revealed. Also, I have made a video like this before, but this time, I'm also going to explain the movies that inspired them. Why? Because I have too much free time. And if you're watching this, chances are, so do you. So, let's spend our collective lack of productivity together, shall we? First on the list is Gardner's Boudoir Dream Skin, one of the earliest Deduction Star winners back in November 2018. This adorable outfit turns Gardner into a mix between a vintage porcelain doll and an Oreo biscuit, with her frilly blue and white dress, white pantyhose, and a bonnet, replacing her usual straw hat. She basically went from garden chic to Victorian tea party enthusiast. What many don't know is that this skin was inspired by the 1962 film Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, which is a dark psychological thriller about two Hollywood sisters. One, a bitter, aging child star, the other, a paralyzed ex-actress. Instead of resolving their issues with therapy, they just mentally torment each other in a crumbling mansion. Think of it as Naruto versus Sasuke, but with passive-aggressive acting and emotional trauma. The film was a hit, though good luck finding a full version online without risking your credit card. Next up, we've got Iron Lady, a skin for our refined yet occasionally terrifying coordinator, Martha B. Hamfill. In this outfit, Martha's rocking a crisp white blouse with long sleeves and a dark blue ribbon tie paired with a white and blue striped skirt full of ruffles and judgment. She looks like she's about to politely destroy you in a debate about table manners while sipping tea. The skin takes inspiration from the 1950 film Harriet Craig, featuring a woman so controlling, she makes perfectionism look like an Olympic sport. Harriet runs her household like it's boot camp, spotless floors, flawless furniture, and absolutely no fun allowed. If someone ruins the order, they're doomed to suffer the kind of pain you feel when your Wi-Fi dies mid-match. Jack the Ripper's A-tier skin, Svengali, is inspired by the 1931 film titled Svengali, where the costume is based on the guy named Svengali. Creative naming, I know. In this skin, Jack ditches his usual Victorian slasher aesthetic for something straight out of an old detective novel. An unbuttoned white shirt, a long blue coat, black trousers, and a fedora. He even has a smoking pipe, which honestly makes him look like Popeye if Popeye had trust issues and a suspicious knife collection. As for the movie, it's about Svengali, a creepy, hypnotic music teacher who's basically every dating app red flag rolled into one man. He uses mind control to turn Trilby, an innocent artist's model with zero singing talent, into a superstar at the cost of her free will and her love interest, Billy. Billy tries to save her, chaos follows, and yeah, no one walks away happy. The good news, you can actually find the movie on YouTube. Released back in 2019, the Priestess decided to go full vintage in this skin, wearing a two-piece dress absolutely covered in pearls. Low-key, She looks like she just walked out of an ancient jewelry store clearance sale. That's because the skin is inspired by the 1955 film The Prodigal, which takes place way before Christianity. Basically, sandals, temples, and a lot of confusing way of life. The movie follows Micah, a rich kid who runs off to live his best ancient Vegas life, minus the casinos. He blows all his money on a dangerously gorgeous pagan priestess named Samarra, who waves red flags like it's a sport. Things obviously fall apart. Betrayal, debt, divine punishment, the whole dramatic package. Micah eventually crawls home broke and traumatized, seeking forgiveness. Moral of the story? Maybe listen to your dad next time. Ever wonder how Eli looks like if he changes careers and became a professional hitman? Well, Recluse pretty much answers that question. Released in 2019, the skin trades Eli's cozy hoodie for a long tan trench coat, a white shirt, and a black tie, basically turning him into depression, but make it fashion. The look is based on Jeff Costello from the 1967 film Le Samurai. Jeff is arguably the chillest, quietest assassin you'll ever see, like if a cat put on a fedora and said, crime, but politely. He lives by a perfect routine: steal a car, wear gloves, do the job, and stare meaningfully into nothingness, similar to Patrick Star at certain point. But when a hit goes wrong, everything falls apart faster than my motivation on a Monday. Cops chase him, his bosses turn on him, and all he's got left is cool silence and trench coat swagger. If you're curious, the movie's lurking on YouTube too. Based on the 1952 classic Singin' in the Rain, Dr. Skin gives Emily a full-on sunshine makeover. She's decked out in a bright yellow raincoat and matching hat, holding a yellow umbrella that replaced her syringe. At this point, you're not sure if you're playing IDV or watching SpongeBob. The good part is, there's literally no rain in any of the maps in the game, yet Emily's out there running like she's surviving a monsoon. The film itself follows Don Lockwood, a silent movie star who suddenly has to talk on camera, and it goes about as smoothly as your mic during a lag. His co-star, Lena, has a voice that could crack glass, so they secretly hire Kathy, a kind-hearted voice actress, to dub over her lines. It's funny, charming, and living proof that faking it till you make it sometimes actually works. Wu Chang in this costume is basically modeled after one guy instead of two, but honestly, he still looks absolutely stunning. He's wearing a long-sleeve cheongsam covered in floral patterns, paired with long trousers that make him look like he's about to steal everyone's heart. The look is inspired by the 1919 film Broken Blossoms, which, yes, makes it over 100 years old. So, yeah, we're digging deep into the archives here. The movie itself, however, is not exactly popcorn material. Broken Blossoms tackles racism, abuse, and general misery, basically the cinematic equivalent of a history lecture that also breaks your heart. It follows Lucy, a poor girl with an abusive father, and Cheng Huan, a kind Chinese man who dreams of peace in a foreign land, but ends up finding tragedy instead. It's beautifully shot but emotionally devastating. The most heartbreaking or eerie part is the ending, though, which, well, you better check the movie yourself. Basically, no one received a happy ending in the movie. Ever heard of something called the Rashomon effect? It's when the same event is described in totally different ways by different people, basically, when everyone swears they're right, but nobody actually is. The term comes from Akira Kurosawa's 1950 film Rashomon, which also inspired this Michiko skin. In this one, she's dressed in a traditional Japanese kimono with a skirt, looking elegant as ever, but the real highlight is that hat. Seriously, she's serving mystery and drama all at once. The movie itself is the original Everyone's Lying story. A murder happens in the woods, and every witness, the bandit, the wife, even the ghost of the dead guy gives a completely different version of what went down. By the end, you're not sure who's honest, what's real, or if truth even exists. Honestly, it's kind of like trying to piece together IDV lore from multiple interviews. Confusing, brilliant, and makes you feel like you just flunked a philosophy test. Moral of the story? People lie, memories suck, and Kurosawa somehow made it art. Released in 2020, this skin gives Mary a whole new vibe. She's decked out head to toe in dark green. Long dress? Dark green. Hat? Dark green. Probably her soul too at this point. Honestly, if she ever walked into a grass field, she'd achieve instant stealth mode. Forget invisibility cloaks, this is eco-camouflage couture. The skin's based on the 1939 movie Gone with the Wind, starring Scarlett O'Hara, from which the skin took inspiration from. Scarlett is, well, you can say that she's the ultimate drama queen of the Old South. She's ambitious, stubborn, and ready to flirt her way through the apocalypse if it means getting what she wants, which is always a guy named Ashley. The movie follows her chaotic love life and survival during the Civil War, complete with burning plantations, marching soldiers, and non-stop emotional chaos. She's obsessed with one man, marries a few others out of spite, and somehow still looks flawless through famine and heartbreak. It's a 4-hour roller coaster of war, romance, and pure emotional whiplash, if I may say. Joseph might look like a handsome young man, but beneath that perfect face, he's basically one expired photo filter away from senior citizen status. That reason is probably why he was cast as Faust for his Deduction star skin. Inspired by the 1925 silent film Faust, Joseph trades his usual look for something even more dramatic. A black doublet and breeches, and a flowing blue and black cape, along with white gloves that makes him look even younger. The movie itself tells the story of an old scholar named Faust, who makes what might be the worst trade deal since NFTs. He literally sells his soul to the devil in exchange for youth, pleasure, and a second shot at life. It starts off great, full of magic and youthful glow-ups, but then he falls for an innocent girl named Gretchen, and everything goes downhill fast. It's haunting, visually stunning, and basically a 1,920 seconds reminder that chasing eternal youth usually comes with eternal regret. Wearing an outfit that looks straight out of the medieval, or maybe late medieval era, Aesop in the skin is basically serving full-on tragic prince vibes. Inspired by the 1948 movie Hamlet, he's dressed in a black outfit with gold accessories that makes him look like a noble, or maybe a knight who spends more time brooding than actually fighting. Either way, the outfit's quite nice. Now, Hamlet is the story of a guy who could have solved all his problems in 5 minutes, but instead went for a full chaos. Prince Hamlet finds out his dad's ghost was murdered by his sketchy uncle, who went on to marry his mom. That's a family reunion you'd rather skip, eh? Anyway, instead of doing something, Hamlet spends 2 hours overthinking, pacing dramatically, and staging a play to expose the truth. And since it's Shakespeare who wrote it, naturally everyone dies in the end. Lore-wise, Naiad was a mercenary, so it makes perfect sense for him to get a skin that looks military. His Deduction star skin, Colonel Dax, is based on the 1957 movie Paths of Glory, depicting him as an officer in the French army. Here, Naiad's rocking a World War I officer's uniform in sleek gray, and yes, his hair is actually visible here. He's not bald, guys. We can all breathe again. Now, in Paths of Glory, Colonel Dax is the only man in the French army with both a working brain and a moral compass. A rare combo, apparently. His superiors order a suicidal mission just to boost their egos, and when it failed, they decide to execute 3 innocent soldiers to save face. Dax, a former lawyer, tries to defend the soldiers, but the corruption runs deeper than the trenches. The movie's basically an anti-war gut punch that reminds you leadership isn't always courage. Sometimes it's just stupidity with medals. This skin for the Perfumer is basically a hunter's worst nightmare because for some reason, everyone who wears the red shoes suddenly turns into a kiting god. Anyway, the red shoes is based on the 1948 film of the same name, and it swaps the perfumer's usual classy outfit for a pink ballerina dress with a pair of cursed red shoes. And I mean cursed in both the lore sense and the why won't this perfumer go down sense. The movie itself follows Victoria, a ballerina who's stuck between her passion for dance and her love for a composer. She's discovered by an overly dramatic impresario who basically says, choose art or love, no pressure. Naturally, she chooses love, and it goes horribly. Then she chooses art, and that also goes horribly. So yeah, either way, it's a lose-lose situation. I'd tell you the ending, but let's just say it goes, horribly. In a certain way. If the English have Robin Hood, then the French said, hold my wine, and made the black tulip. Both rob from the rich and give to the poor, though the French version does it with extra flair, sword fights, and probably better fashion sense. Naturally, this fits Norton Campbell perfectly, which is why his Deduction star skin is named the Black Tulip. In this skin, Norton trades his minor gear for a black poet shirt with an open collar, a shiny necklace, and a sword that says, I may rob you, but I'll look good doing it. The movie it's based on, The Black Tulip. Released in 1964, it follows Guillaume, a nobleman by day, a masked rebel by night, and certified show-off 247. When the authorities start catching on, he drags his quiet twin brother Julian into pretending to be him, and as you might guess, it goes downhill fast. What follows is a chaotic mix of mistaken identity, sword fights, romance, betrayal, and enough melodrama to power a whole telenovela. Guillaume's ego causes chaos, Julian gets dragged into emotional damage territory, and by the end, well, let's just say one twin gets the short end of the sword. The 1938 movie Just Around the Corner follows Penny, an endlessly cheerful little girl who could probably end world hunger just by smiling at it. Her dad used to be a big-shot architect, but the Great Depression hit harder than a ranked loss streak, and now they're both just trying to stay afloat. So what does Penny do? She takes matters into her own tiny hands, befriends a rich kid, charms everyone in a 10-mile radius, and somehow convinces a scary business tycoon to give her dad his job back. Honestly, she's more productive than I've ever been on a Monday. Tracy Resnick's Deduction star skin seems to borrow that same dad and daughter powered duo vibe, since, in her lore, Tracy and her father also has that similar power. In this outfit, she trades her usual mechanic gear for a blue dress, cute white shoes, and a matching headscarf that replaces her goggles. The result? Adorably wholesome. Maybe a little childish, but she could still probably outsmart half the manor. I'm not gonna lie, folks. This skin might just be one of the most glamorous things ever added to Identity 5. The Enchantress is absolutely serving in a green feathered dress that looks straight off a vintage Paris runway. The look is based on Zouzou, a 1934 film featuring the legendary Josephine Baker, of whom some of you guys might have just heard about her. Anyway, Zouzou starts as a working-class laundry girl and ends up a dazzling stage star. She's madly in love with her childhood friend Jean, but of course, he hits her with the classic "you're like a sister to me," because apparently Jean had the emotional range of a teaspoon. When Jean's falsely accused of murder, Zouzou uses her fame to save him, thus sacrificing her own dreams in the process. It's musical, tragic, and stylish enough to make me question my wardrobe. Wearing a shirtless brown outfit and leather gloves, Luca looks like he just walked out of an ancient action movie. Or, well, technically he did. His tiny fang peeking out only adds to the charm. Well, Luca could wear a potato sack and still look good. This skin takes inspiration from the 1959 movie Ben-Hur, one of those old-school films where everyone's sweaty, dramatic, and definitely overdue for therapy. It tells us the story about Judah Ben-Hur, a wealthy Jewish prince whose life goes from luxury to absolute chaos, thanks to his backstabbing childhood friend, Masala. One false accusation later, Judah's family is ruined. He's enslaved on a Roman ship, and revenge becomes his whole personality. After surviving epic sea battles and horse chariot races that could outdo any Fast and Furious scene, he finally faces Masala in a showdown for the ages, which ended in, well, just try to watch the movie yourself, I guess. The 1952 biographical film Million Dollar Mermaid serves as the inspiration for Grace's Deduction star skin, and honestly, she looks expensive. Dressed in a white swimsuit covered in pearls, she's giving full-on underwater royalty vibes. Like, if Poseidon had a daughter who also ran a fashion blog, this would be her. The movie itself follows Annette Kellerman, a real Australian swimmer who basically said, "If I can't make waves in sports, I'll make them in showbiz." She faces rejection trying to break into water ballet. But through sheer determination, as well as a few near-death stunts, she becomes a worldwide sensation. There's love, heartbreak, and enough synchronized swimming to make your joints hurt just watching. Honestly, Annette walked so every influencer with a mermaid core aesthetic could run. This little gremlin, little girl, wears blue overalls, a puff-sleeved white shirt, and a light blue plaid skirt. Don't be fooled by the innocent look, though. If you've ever met her in Ranked, you know she's the true final boss of your sanity. 1 minute she's decoding, the next she's teleporting and emoting at the hunter like she owns the place. Truly, a menace in cute packaging. Anyway, this skin is based on the 1939 classic, The Wizard of Oz. Dorothy Gale is a sweet Kansas girl who gets yeeted by a tornado, as one does, into a magical land called Oz. With her dog Toto, who she chokes mid-kite by the way, she follows the yellow brick road to find the wizard and a way home. Along the way, she collects friends like Pokemon, a scarecrow without a brain, a tin man without a heart, and a lion without courage. After fighting a green witch with a flying monkey army, Dorothy learns the real magic was in her all along. Cute message, chaotic journey. When this dancer skin first dropped, it caused more drama than the English One chat channel. The design was hit with religious controversy so intense that the devs had to quietly tweak a few details before things got too heated to tone down. Fittingly, the skin is inspired by the 1953 film Salome, which, for those of you who knows, is already a full-on biblical drama. Yeah, maybe not the safest theme choice for a multiplayer game. The movie itself follows Princess Salome, the stepdaughter of King Herod, who gets caught in the crossfire when the prophet John the Baptist publicly calls out Herod and Queen Herodias for their sketchy marriage. Salome tries to save John, but her mom has other plans. Mainly using her daughter's dance skills to manipulate Herod, Salome performs the infamous dance of the Seven Veils, expecting to win John's freedom, but instead, her mom asks for his head. The plot goes deeper than this, actually, so I suggest you to watch the movie too. Leonardo da Vinci, not Leonardo DiCaprio, sadly, was the ultimate Renaissance overachiever. Painter, inventor, sculptor, philosopher. Basically the guy who made everyone else in the 15th century look like they weren't trying hard enough. So, it's only fitting that Edgar Valden, our very own moody painter in IDV, got a skin inspired by him. The film itself is more of a documentary than a drama, following Leonardo from curious apprentice to full-blown multi-talented guy. He paints masterpieces, tinkers with inventions no one asked for, and probably survives on 3 hours of sleep. There's no wild plot twist or explosive ending, just the story of history's most productive insomniac doing his thing. Ithaca in this skin looks like he just escaped from both a Western movie and a crime scene. Wrapped head to toe in bandages, draped in an all-black trench coat, cowboy hat, scarf, he's basically the embodiment of, "Don't talk to me, I have trauma." The mysterious vibe, immaculate. The fashion sense, somewhere between cool outlaw and please stay 6 feet away. His look is inspired by the 1933 classic The Invisible Man. The story follows Dr. Griffin, a chemist who discovers a formula for invisibility. After testing it on himself, he becomes invisible, but also completely unhinged. Freed from consequences, He starts wreaking havoc, terrifying everyone, and declaring himself unstoppable. Unfortunately, being invisible isn't as glamorous as it sounds, and the police eventually track him down and, well, let's say thing goes horribly for him. Lesson to take from this: well, maybe test your experiments on a rat before dosing yourself. Galatea's new skin gives her beautiful golden curly hair, decorated with a pair of really nice bow hairpins. She's wearing a simple but elegant blue and white dress with black leather shoes, which gives off a cool aristocratic vibe. The whole look is actually based on Clara, a character from the 1937 film Heidi, which was itself based on a classic children's story from the late 19th century. Heidi is the story of an orphan Swiss girl whose optimism is basically a superpower. She moves into the mountains to live with her grumpy grandfather and, through sheer sunny energy, manages to win him over. She befriends goats and turns the Alps into her own personal paradise of laughter. When she's sent to the city to be a companion for Clara, a sick girl, she charms the entire household. Of course, she eventually returns to the mountains, where apparently goats, fresh air, and Heidi's presence can heal any emotional wound instantly. It seems she can fix everything. Except my win rates, of course. It's no surprise that the Antiquarian was chosen to represent Mulan as her Deduction star skin. Both Qi and Mulan share that same commanding aura. Strong, disciplined, and absolutely ready to take down anyone standing in their way with their spear in hand. Inspired by the 1939 film Mulan Joins the Army, this skin transforms Qi into a warrior clad in striking cyan armor instead of her usual Gyeongsam. Her long hair is tied up neatly, emphasizing her focus and resolve, while her expression radiates determination and quiet strength. The film itself tells the story of Mulan, who disguises herself as a man to take her father's place in the army. Alongside fellow conscript Yuan Dulu, she's stationed at the frontier to defend against invading forces. Together, they not only repel the enemy's attack but also uncover traitors within their own ranks. When her service ends, Mulan returns home, shedding her disguise and reclaiming her identity as a woman. In a touching conclusion, she reunites with Yuandu, this time not as comrades in arms, but as partners in life. I think we all know that story. The tale of what happens when you fall hopelessly in love with someone whose family would rather stab yours than send a wedding invitation. Of course, I'm talking about Romeo and Juliet. Given that the entire plot revolves around tragic romance, it's no surprise that Ada Mesmer was chosen to embody Juliet in her Deduction star costume, inspired by the 1964 film adaptation. In this movie, Juliet Capulet is young, bright, and tragically romantic. Basically, the poster girl for love at first sight gone wrong. She falls for Romeo, the one guy she absolutely shouldn't, thanks to that pesky family feud. Between secret meetings, swoony balcony confessions, and a tangle of terrible timing, their love story spirals into the ultimate tragedy. When Juliet awakens to find Romeo dead beside her, she takes fate into her own hands, sealing their story with one final heartbreaking act. She's poetic, passionate, and absolutely determined to make sure no one gets a happy ending. Based on the 1944 American noir classic Double Indemnity, The Entomologist, Mellie Plinius looks like she just walked out of a murder scene and straight into a fashion show. She's decked out in all black, shirt, coat, skirt, hat, you name it, like a funeral decided to get chic. It's elegant, mysterious, and terrifyingly powerful. The movie itself follows Walter Neff, an insurance salesman who gets seduced by Phyllis Dietrichson into a murder plot for money. Together, they plan to kill her husband and cash in on a double indemnity policy, which basically means double the payout if you die in a creatively unlucky way. But of course, everything goes downhill faster than my ranked matches. Suspicion builds, guilt eats them alive, and by the end, everyone's sweating, crying, confessing into a dictaphone, and bleeding out dramatically. Much like Phyllis's dark femme fatale energy, Hermit's Deduction star skin takes the gothic route. He's dressed entirely in black. Long robe, black hat, and a face that says, "I've seen too much." This look is inspired by the 1951 French film The Diary of a Country Priest, which sounds holy, but is really a masterclass in emotional suffering. The story follows a young, sickly priest who moves to a gloomy little village, determined to save souls, but instead ends up battling illness, doubt, and villagers with too much attitude. He keeps a diary to cope, writing down his slow descent into spiritual exhaustion like it's a 1950 seconds version of a sad blog. There are no miracles, no cheerful hymns. Just one man, one diary, and enough existential crisis to fuel a philosophy degree. In this skin, Norton Campbell looks like he's about to deliver a tragic monologue about taxes and trauma. He's dressed in a black suit with a red and white plaid blanket draped over his shoulders, giving off strong, depressed lumberjack who invested in crypto energy. Snow piles on his hat and shoulders like the weight of all his ranked losses, and his expression is pure existential dread. Nobody knows what he's thinking about. Maybe money, maybe love, maybe his win rate after facing 5 forward mains in a row. The skin takes inspiration from the 1925 silent classic The Gold Rush. The film follows a prospector who actually finds gold, but then gets caught in a blizzard and ends up sheltering with a literal criminal named Larson and another equally miserable prospector named Jim. Things go downhill fast. Larson finds out about the gold, knocked out the poor guy out cold, steals the gold, and immediately dies in an avalanche. Karma works fast, apparently. When our poor prospector wakes up, he knows he struck gold somewhere, but has absolutely no idea where. So he drags Jim along for the world's most frustrating treasure hunt. It's basically me trying to remember where I left my phone 5 minutes ago. Since Ada Mesmer got to play Juliet, it's only fair that her not-so-secret admirer Emile gets to be Romeo. In this skin, Romeo's rocking a dark green top and a hat decorated with golden. The design takes inspiration from the 1964 film Romeo and Juliet, where everything's beautiful, poetic, and emotionally devastating. In the story, Romeo Montague is basically the CEO of bad decisions and dramatic timing. He crashes a Capulet party, locks eyes with Juliet, and immediately decides, "Yep, that's my wife." One balcony scene later, they're secretly married. He tries to keep peace but ends up killing her cousin, gets banished, and spirals into despair. When he thinks Juliet's dead, he drinks poison faster than logic can intervene, intending to follow his lover to the afterlife. Ironically, Juliet was still alive, but when she found Romeo's dead by her side, she's like, "Bet," and joins him, thus making sure the ending stays on brand for Shakespeare. Everybody dies, beautifully. Moral of the story? Well, maybe wait 5 minutes before making life-altering decisions. The 1949 French film Alice in Wonderland serves as the inspiration for this Deduction star skin. And honestly, it's a perfect match. In this skin, Alice sports a lovely blue dress covered in intricate patterns and frills, with her blonde hair tied into a high ponytail topped by a blue bow headband. She looks sweet, innocent, and like she's about 5 minutes away from causing multiversal chaos. The story itself follows Alice, a curious girl with zero sense of danger, who decides the most logical response to seeing a talking rabbit is to chase it down a hole. What follows is a full-on fever dream. She meets a grinning cat who speaks in riddles, a Mad Hatter who probably needs therapy, and a queen whose solution to everything is decapitation. Between the tea parties, nonsensical debates, and identity crises, Alice just wants to get home. Honestly, it's kind of a cautionary tale about what happens when you let your imagination run wild. The composer's Deduction star skin gives him a sharp and elegant look. He's wearing a crisp white shirt under a black tuxedo, looking like he's about to perform at a high society concert or commit an assassination. His usual white silver hair has turned black in this version, which somehow makes him look 10 times more brooding and mysterious. This skin is based on the 1945 film Hangover Square, a psychological thriller about George Harvey Bone, a brilliant composer whose musical genius comes with one tiny side effect: being homicidal unconsciously. One minute he's writing symphonies, the next he's waking up beside a corpse. To make things worse, a manipulative singer named Netta fuels his spiral even deeper into obsession and madness. As guilt and memory blur together, George's final symphony becomes, quite literally, to die for. You can probably see the ending of this movie as the most memorable one. Honestly, the cheerleader absolutely steals the spotlight with this skin. Inspired by the 1936 film Poor Little Rich Girl, she's decked out in what looks like a sparkly military performance outfit, complete with a hat topped with fluffy white feathers and a golden gong in hand. The movie itself follows Barbara Barry, the daughter of a wealthy soap tycoon, Richard. When her dad sends her off to boarding school with a nanny, things immediately go downhill. The nanny gets hit by a car, dies afterward, and Barbara ends up lost and alone. With no phones, GPS, or social media, she basically vanishes off the grid like a toddler Houdini. Eventually, she's taken in by two struggling entertainers, and despite being born rich, Barbara adjusts like a pro, singing, dancing, and charming her way into everyone's hearts. Eventually, she made way to become a radio star. Meanwhile, her dad's out here losing his mind trying to find her, and upon hearing her singing in the radio, the two reunited happily. Moral of the story? You don't need money to shine. Just talent, luck, and apparently zero adult supervision. The 1968 British musical Oliver serves as the inspiration for this acrobat skin, where Mike Morton gets to play the parish boy, modeled after none other than the charming little menace himself, the Artful Dodger. In this skin, Mike rocks a red vest layered with a blue coat, tan trousers, and a snazzy black circus hat. He looks like he's ready to either steal your wallet or break into a dance number, possibly both. The movie itself follows Oliver Twist, an orphan who escapes his depressing workhouse life, only to stumble into a gang of child pickpockets led by Fagin and his star pupil, the Artful Dodger. Between street crime tutorials and musical numbers that are way too upbeat for the subject matter, Oliver just wants one thing: a real family and a decent meal. Of course, things get complicated when a terrifying character named Bill Sikes shows up. After that, the story keeps twisting. But by the end, Oliver and the Dodger manage to find something that vaguely resembles happiness. We all know that Freddy's love story in Identity 5 is accepted by Martha Beck. But what if it didn't? Well, that's basically the vibe of his Deduction star skin, inspired by the 1938 French film, The Novel of Werther. In this skin, Freddy trades his usual charm for heartbreak chic. White shirt, white trousers, black tuxedo, and about 50 shades of emotional damage. The movie tells the story of Werther, a poetic, violin-playing magistrate who falls head over heels for Charlotte, who's, unfortunately, already engaged. Instead of moving on like a sane person, Werther decides to suffer artistically. He spends his days writing tragic letters, sighing dramatically, and staring longingly into the distance like a heartbroken guy you met in the college. It's basically 90 minutes of pure emotional devastation. A masterclass in how to turn heartbreak into a full-time job. So, yeah, if Freddy ever got friend-zoned by Martha, this would 100% be his villain origin story. The term femme fatale describes an attractive and seductive woman who often brings distress or disaster to any man who becomes involved with her. A perfect example is the Phyllis skin we discussed earlier. However, in this case, the title refers to the Dream Witch, as her skin is directly inspired by the 1944 film Cobra Woman. The story follows Tolia, a kind-hearted woman abducted from her peaceful South Seas village and taken to Cobra Island. Her fiancé, Ramu, decides to rescue her, accompanied by his friend Kato. They journey to the island, only to find it ruled by Tolia's evil twin sister, Naja. Long story short, Tolia is kidnapped for a noble purpose, Ramu mistakes Naja for Tolia. Naja develops feelings for Ramu. Kato gets captured by the islanders, and a volcano erupts at the climax. It's a fun watch, if you ask me. I've seen many comments declaring Demi Bourbon the winner of this year's Deduction Star Skin series, and I have to say I agree. The skin, So Long at the Fair, is based on the 1950 film of the same name. It features Demi in a peach dress with a white frilled skirt and her hair neatly tied up, depicting her as the film's protagonist, Vicky Barton. In the movie, Vicky travels to Paris with her brother Johnny, only for him to vanish the next morning. To her horror, everyone insists he never existed. Determined to find him, Vicky navigates a web of gaslighting and mystery, encountering a city full of suspiciously forgetful people. With the help of a kind artist, she uncovers a conspiracy involving a hospital cover-up. The 1977 film The Prince and the Pauper serves as the inspiration for Richard's new skin, which presents him with the regal appearance of a true king, complete with a crown. However, if you're familiar with the original novel, or its adaptations, you know the Central King is an imposter, a detail that creates a compelling parallel to Richard's own story within the game. The story follows two identical boys, a prince weary of his luxurious life and a pauper struggling to survive. They decide to swap places for fun, and predictably, chaos ensues. The prince gets a harsh taste of poverty, while the pauper receives a crash course in royal politics and courtly scheming. Amidst the mistaken identities and power-hungry nobles, the tale delivers a classic lesson on empathy, showing that life is difficult on both sides of the throne. It's the quintessential, be careful what you wish for, story. Closing off the list, Nightmare's skin, Mr. Hyde, takes inspiration from the 1931 film Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and it's as creepy as it sounds. Dressed in a white shirt, black tuxedo, and flowing robe, with that unhinged grin and claw-like fingers, he looks like he's one potion away from ruining someone's day. The movie tells of Dr. Jekyll, a well-meaning scientist who brews a potion to split his good and evil sides. Problem is, it works a little too well. His dark alter ego, Mr. Hyde, takes over, wreaking havoc all over London every night, while Jekyll desperately tries to keep up his respectable gentleman act by. Honestly, it fits Orpheus perfectly. Refined on the outside, chaos and nightmares on the inside. Well, that was quite the list, wasn't it? Like I said, I clearly have way too much free time. And apparently, so do you. So thanks for spending it with me today. Now, if you thought I actually watched all those movies myself, yeah, no. I watched some of them, maybe a few. The rest I learned from reading Wikipedia and IMDb. So yeah, if I missed a few details or got something a bit off, feel free to correct me. Preferably in a kind, you tried your best kind of way. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day, good night, or whatever mysterious time zone situation you're in right now.